Welcome back, everyone, to our Kramer series. This is module number 2. This one is going to be overseeing Massachusetts licensees. So basically, in addition to federal requirements and mandates, each individual state has their own set of rules and regulations and laws that dictate how the real estate licensee should be operating. In this particular section, we're going to be talking about how here in the state of Massachusetts, we manage our agents and brokers and their conduct of business, and that's coming up next. Okay, so the first topic that we're going to talk about in this particular section when we're looking and overseeing and governing licensees is advertising. So in advertising, there's going to be a spectrum of different opportunities that a test writer could potentially go after. So here's a list of a couple of things that are going to help you sort through some of the advertising topics that may come up. Number one, look out for things like making sure that the agent in the scenario is focusing on the listing itself and not on the person who could potentially be buying the property, right? Make sure that we're staying in compliance with all state, federal, fair housing laws. Keep in mind and remember protected classes and things of that nature. Look to highlight the physical features of a property. Those are good things. So those are not illegal. There's nothing wrong with that. So we want to make sure. Now, looking at fair housing, we want to make sure we avoid certain topics, things like and phrases that you'll see in your textbooks, sort of the classic phrases that would, sort of move towards discrimination. I would say is things like, family friendly or the home is walkable or things of that nature. Those could in fact be violating a party's protected class status and could be discriminatory. So we want to look out for that. There's a lot of detail in the discrimination sections, and I encourage all students to go and focus on those chapters. There will be a lot of detail and questions. And again, remember, anti-discrimination, generally speaking, will elicit some pretty strong reactions in a lot of test takers, and test writers know this, so they even more so than not write very specific detailed questions to throw students off. So do pay attention here. Also, we want to make sure that we remember things like protected class status, and we also want to remember any state-specific protected class statuses that we went over during our course. Remember some key phrases, things like steering, which is channeling to or away from an area for reasons other than economic qualifications, and things like blockbusting and redlining. Those are all classic vocab phrases that do show up. But again, in advertising, it's really about steering and potentially blockbusting. All right, the next one. There is no blind advertising here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And I feel that blind ads are a high probability on a real estate examination. A blind ad is an ad where there is no direct indication that this is a solicitation coming from some sort of a brokerage company. So it could say something like, a call for an apartment won't last long, dial a certain phone number, and it doesn't explain that this is a company, blah, blah, blah. So no blind ads. The brokerage firm must always be identified in the advertisement. Their contact information must always be there. And any signs or any signage of that matter must also indicate the company's name, phone number, and address. So no blind advertising here in Massachusetts. Make sure that all advertising is done in the broker's name. Now, another topic regarding advertising is bait and switch advertising. And we need to know that bait and switch basically is offering one thing, never intending to actually offer that thing, but to give them something else, right? That's bait and switch advertising. So properties being advertised must be available at the time of the advertisement, and disclaimers must be included in there. Keeping in mind that you must avoid any violations to the federal Regulation Z, which is the Truth in Lending Act. And the Truth in Lending Act deals with advertising in financial transactions. So we have to be mindful of all of those pieces inside of the world of advertising and governing licensees here in the Commonwealth of Mass. Okay, next, let's discuss the broker-salesperson relationship here in Massachusetts. And the first things first, remember that the first license that we get, as we kind of mentioned in the first Kramer video, is a salesperson's license. Okay, remember, unless you're an attorney, then you're exempt from the courses and the test, and you can jump right to brokerage license, but you still have to apply for that license and be in good standing as an attorney. All right, so we did look at that exemption. But all salespersons, because they have to be connected to a broker, can only work under one licensed broker here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And remember, only that broker, that managing broker, can compensate that salesperson. They can only work for that one broker, and ultimately that broker is vicariously liable for the actions or missteps of that salesperson. Now, vicarious liability simply means that the boss is ultimately liable for the actions or misrepresentations that happen underneath or in the conduct of business. So all brokers are vicariously liable for their salespersons or anybody else under them that they are managing. Ultimately, after 3 years, then that salesperson, after being actively licensed, can go and get their broker's license. And remember, they have to be bonded, take a course, pass an exam, that whole bit. Regarding getting paid, any real estate agent compensation, sales commissions, referral fees, any other valuable consideration must be paid through the broker, and it can only come from that broker. So you might see potential test questions here about how a client really wants to thank a salesperson for doing a good job, so they offer them tickets to a gaming event or to pay for their dinner or something like that. Anything of value is considered compensation, and we want to make sure that we understand that always has to be okayed by the managing broker in order to do that. All right, so that's a hot topic that many times does come up on examinations, so look out for it. Brokers have to pay them. Salesperson has to be connected to a broker. They can get their license after 3 years, and any and all compensation can only come through that particular broker.